What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Chat with Will Grant. We have our co-host today, Dr. Edwin Adams, Mr. Birthday Boy 51. We'll get to that, but first, I just want to say I'm super excited that everyone is showing up to talk about how to lose body fat. I know this is a really hot topic. So many of us today are struggling with this, as well as want to learn just some really awesome, effective, healthy methods to lose body fat. And we have our co-host, Birthday Boy, happy, healthy, strong at 51 today. How you doing, Birthday Boy?
Will, I can't think of a better birthday present than to share fellowship with you and the listeners today. So happy birthday to me, and thanks for making it a great day.
Man, thanks for showing up, and thank you everybody that is showing up here on live, as well as thank you everybody who are watching these playlists on YouTube as well. The topic today is losing body fat and how obesity, especially in America and so many of the developed countries, it's actually a health epidemic. I want to give off a few statistics before we get started that I saved for you guys. Let me figure out. Oh my goodness, I lost it here. 1 second. I don't know how it just exited out, but heart disease, which is the main disease that you're going to get for being chronically overweight, is actually the leading cause of preventable deaths in America, as well as with many other countries in all races. And it's a real epidemic. So how did I just lose that, actually? 1 second. I literally just lost it. When the YouTube came up, I exited out the whole thing. And then
That's all right. I got you covered. Do you know one person dies every 37
there we go.
seconds due to cardiovascular disease? One person. So by 2030, over 1 million people in the US could die each year from cardiovascular disease. 1 million people from a preventable illness. So those are probably two of the most startling statistics. And if you ever go look at these on a graph, they are doing nothing but going up. I don't know which way my hand's going, but they're going up.
All right, and I found are the ones that I had. So yeah, just like Edwin said, one person every 36 seconds in the United States dies from cardiovascular disease. So if it's not us, it's most likely somebody that we care about and somebody that we love. And these are real preventable deaths. And on top of that, if you have some sort of heart disease or anything that is underlying with that has to do with obesity or being overweight, that leads into things like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, which all makes you in so much more of a higher risk of COVID or any sort of virus or any sort of disease to not only worsen the effects of the hospitalization, but a much higher risk of dying as well. About 655,000 Americans die from heart disease every single year. That's 1 in every 4 deaths are actually related from heart disease, which, like we're going to be talking about today, is completely preventable based on our lifestyle and our habits and the way we move and groove throughout our days and move and groove throughout our lives. Not only is it affecting our health, but heart disease costs the United States over 200 billion each year. This includes, the cost of healthcare services, medicines, and lost productivity to death. So, I mean, it's a real epidemic. It is not only our number one killer, but it is our number one cost that is costing us as human beings. And it's just simply from, to be super frank, it's overconsumption. Like, we as Americans especially are addicted to overconsuming. And so many people that I talk to who've been living in America for, say, over 40, 50 years, it's like we are programmed to think that more is better. that the more we eat, the bigger and stronger and healthier we're going to be. And the more that we consume, the richer we are. When in actuality, the less we consume, the better we're going to feel, not only physically, but mentally as well. Most people that I've came across who've lived through their 90s and even to 100 years old, they're pretty thin, and they don't consume very much. They tend to eat like 1 or 2 meals a day. And that is just because the more we consume and the more that we eat and the more food that we eat, it just wears down our body's systems. And another really interesting fact to make it super simple, because you can ask, well, how do I know if I'm overweight? Like, how do I know if I have fat to lose? And I don't really necessarily like to go by the BMI. A lot of you guys know about the body mass index. So you kind of divide your height by your weight, but that doesn't factor into muscle. A very, very simple and effective way that I learned when I was just beginning to be a personal trainer and really diving into fat loss, and that was kind of my main concern with so many of my clients, is actually a waist to hip ratio. And it's super simple. If your waist circumference is bigger than your hip circumference, you tend to just be in so much of a higher risk of getting heart disease, as well as high cholesterol, high blood pressure, so many of these issues. And it's another interesting fact that I found yesterday when I was researching this topic was the University of California, Santa Barbara found that a child's performance in cognitive tests correlated to their mother's waist to hip ratio. A proxy for how much fat she stores on her hips compared to her waist even determines your offspring into how cognitive capable they will be. So children whose mothers had wider hips than their waist tend to score the highest in cognitive tests as well. And that's for a couple of reasons. A lot of what makes us store our fat in our waist area is stress levels. And when we have that excess of weight or excessive fat around our waist, that's putting all of that fat around our internal organs, which is extremely, extremely important. That puts so much more stress and pressure on pretty much all of our systems. So the more that we can get our body fat percentage down and our waist trim down, it's not only going to affect our physical health, and it actually affects our mental health as well, and not only our physical attractiveness. That waist to hip ratio literally is not only a beautiful way to just quickly determine how much risk we are in a lot of these gnarly diseases, but even our physical attractiveness as well. What do you think, Edwin?
Well, I guess the question that comes to mind, Will, is that in any measurement like that, there can be an error in the calculation if you don't do it right. Do you recommend a certain way to measure? Like, where are your hips, and where do you
Yeah.
measure on your hip? And does it go around your butt? Does it go around your navel?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So I mean, I'm sure there's a few different methods, but the simplest method that you could do is, one, look in the mirror and most likely you'll be able to tell. But if you want to grab a measurement just to know exact, if it's close that you have to measure it, it means that you're doing better than most. But like most people, if they're in real trouble and they really need to start losing some fat, you can look in the mirror and tell, hey, my waist is bigger than my hips. But if you want to measure it, it's super simple. One, to either around your belly button or just above your belly button is probably the most common place to measure your waist circumference. And then your hips is just your widest point. So give yourself the best benefit of the doubt and measure your hips at its biggest point, and then measure your waist just right above its belly button. And that'll be able to tell. If it's close, you're still at risk. So you want your hips to be wider than your waist. And we're going to get into some really awesome and simple methods on how to start really shedding that body fat the healthy way, because there's many different ways to lose weight. You can lose weight and still be really unhealthy. And that and that is determined by the methods that you choose to lose weight.
Let me ask you another question, Will. I know that people can get obsessed with the scale, for instance, as a measure of weight or fat loss. I don't want people to obsess over this ratio, but it really is simply a tool to help them assess progress, perhaps. How often would you recommend, just checking in on the ratio to see if the intervention you're using is working or not?
I mean, don't go crazy with it, but I mean, I think that's going to be determined for every single person. Like I tell people all the time, don't so much worry about the scale, but I mean, like, if you're 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight and you really got to do something, then the scale is super helpful. But once you're only like 20 to 30 pounds overweight, it becomes less and less helpful because it's not measuring your body, like all of your bones and, and your muscle and everything else you got going on. It's not, but a body fat percentage test, which is pretty simple. You can buy one of those things for $20 that you hold on. It's not the most accurate thing in the world, but it'll give you a pretty good idea. But it's super simple. Like, get connected with yourself. Take your shirt off and stand in front of a mirror. Poke around at yourself. Feel around at your body. And like, that waist to hip ratio is a super simple, very effective way that you could check every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever you feel good with. It's going to be different for everybody. I wouldn't check it every day. Like checking it every day is because your body's going to adjust. It's just like checking your weight every single day. It's hard to get any real information, but if you check it once a week or every other week or once a month, it can be a bit more effective that way. I've found, just mentally as well.
Yeah, nice, man. And I know a lot of supplement stores, even as an added bonus, have those in-body measurement systems that you stand on, and it uses bioimpedance and water content in your body to kind of guess what your percent muscle mass is, your percent body fat. And again, it can be just a helpful tool that you can monitor your transformation at reasonable intervals.
Yeah, yeah. And like, you're 100% right, but I'm gonna go back with, like, I feel like it's important to like take your shirt off and get in front of a mirror and get connected with the way you look like and poke around and feel, because the way you feel about yourself is more important than any scale that's going to tell you anything. And if you look in the mirror and are afraid to take off that shirt, I think that could be one of the most important things that you could do, is face that fear, is face where you are at in this moment, because that's the best way to take the best step forward. Use that if it's frustration or if it's fear, anything, use that energy to thrust yourself forward of like, hey, this is what I look like right now. Take some photos, hang it up on your computer, hang it up on your, somewhere that you look at every single day, and use it as motivation, to where like, you want to feel the way you want to feel, not the way anybody else wants you to feel. You want to look the way you want to look, but the most important thing is, are you healthy? And a lot of times you can base that just based on how you're mentally feeling, because if you're physically unhealthy, most likely you're going to be struggling mentally. But you could be a little high on the scale and look in the mirror and maybe hold a little bit more fat than your sister or than your friend, but still feel really good about it. And that's okay. Like that's okay. Not that, again, going back or before, if your waist is way thicker than your hips, we got to do something. We have to drop that down because we are over consuming at that point. And when you're over consuming, I always bring it back. It's not just about us, like every single tribe, from when, for thousands of years, you don't want to be the person who is over consuming. I think the issue now is that we can consume so much with very little cost, and it's usually the cheapest foods tend to have the most amount of calories with the least amount of nourishment, and that's going to affect the way we feel. That's going to affect the way we look. So we have to find something that we can do consistently, because if you can't find something that you're going to do consistently, nothing's going to work. But it comes down to a few very simple things. One is, I'm sure you've heard 1,000,001 times is calories in versus calories out. You know, I'm not saying that all calories are the same, but if you are overweight or if you are holding more fat than you choose to, it's pretty simple that you're probably consuming too much. Okay. And to lose weight, we have to consume less calories and we have to burn more. So there's two big factors with that. When you're wanting to lose fat, consume less and move more. I'm going to say that again because this is probably one of the most important parts of this. Consume less and move more. And the less you consume, the less it's going to be, you know, or the better it's going to be for you, the better it's going to be for your family. And, you know, ironically, the better it's going to be for the earth, because all the bad food that we consume ourselves, just the process of growing it and processing it is most likely going to be bad for the earth. So the less of that stuff that we consume, the better. I'm not telling you to never have a cookie, because I'll be the first one to admit that I love cookies. Okay. Like I love,
And I'm having one today, Will. It's my
yeah.
birthday.
Yeah. You know, it's your birthday. You deserve a cookie. Like have a cake, you know, but
Oh, but
just,
have you seen the size of the cookie cake my wife bought me? It's bigger than this monitor.
yeah.
I shouldn't have told you that. I'm going to feel bad now.
Yeah. But I mean, just remember, more is not always better. You know, just to be able to taste that, to be able to enjoy that, it's okay, but you don't want to make it a habit. So and to lose weight, it comes down to a few things. Consistency is number one. So you got to find something that is going to work. What is the nutrition plan that's going to work for you? What is the movement plan that's going to work for you? So let's start first with movement. If you want to drop that fat loss, you're going to have to move and use that body. And the more you move and use that body, the more of that fat and the more of that energy it's going to burn up. Because remember, fat is just stored energy. Okay, so the goal is to dip into that stored energy source and use that. So my first, probably biggest tip, and you know, if you're really into this, I recommend writing it down. Okay, is wake up every single morning, and before you consume anything, move that body. Okay, like one of the simplest, easiest, most effective, healthiest things that you could do is just step out that front door as soon as you wake up, brush your teeth, drink 1 or 2 glasses of water, and then go for a walk around your neighborhood. 30 to 60 minutes, you know, and I'm going to tell you guys, if you're listening to this, this is obviously important to you. I want to set this challenge right now for the next 30 days. Before you consume anything besides water and maybe some toothpaste, I want you to walk outside and go for 30, 60 minutes. Now, if you don't want to walk, ride a bike. Okay, just something that's going to get that body moving, and outside, you're just going to get so many more benefits. You know, it's funny that the more I've been studying health lately, you know, the less of a fan I've actually been of the gym, because you just get so much more health benefits to be outside, because you're under the sun, you're getting the vitamin D, you're breathing in the fresh air, you're breathing, you know, you're connecting your body in with your local environment. And it's really good for your mental health as well, just to get outside and be under a tree or be under some fresh air. So 30 minutes to 60 minutes. If you decide 30 minutes, you walk as far as you can for 15 minutes, you turn around, you come back home. Okay. If you decide 60 minutes, like you're really going to give it your all, walk as far as you can for 30 minutes, then turn around and walk yourself back. And it's not that bad. You go at your own pace. And then for the first day, just set that base. See how far you go in that 15 to 30 minutes, and then turn back. And then you try to beat that. You try to beat that every single day or every single week. And then don't be afraid to walk different paths, go different ways. And this is my first biggest tip. Wake up in the morning and get to moving. And every single day, it doesn't matter what your goals are, if it's to lose weight or if it's just to be healthy, we want to find some sort of movement for 30 to 60 minutes. Okay, this could be yoga, this could be hiking, this could be going for a bike ride, this could be swimming in the ocean, swimming in a lake, playing with your dog, playing with your kids, or even joining like a local sports league. You know, like I'm involved in BMX racing. So I see a lot of people that show up to the BMX race to, one, bring their kids outside to do something active. And then I see parents starting as well, just for exercise. So find something that you enjoy, because remember, something that you can do consistently is going to be the most effective. If you hate going to the gym and you say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and this is my goal, it's probably not going to last very long. Find something you enjoy. I don't know too many people who hate hiking. Like, just go out into a beautiful park and just walk and observe and watch the nature and watch the trees. Like, that's one of the best things that you could do, not only physically, but mentally as well. So get out and get moving, that 30, 60 minutes every single day. And if you want more, do more, but bare minimum, 30 minutes every single day, walk. And if your body's hurting, make sure you're keeping that good posture. You're leading with your heart, your head's back. Don't be crunched over and walking, because, that's going to cause some more pain in the knees or more pain in the back. So not only just walk around your neighborhood for the movement, but think about it as a moving meditation. So you're just connecting to your breath, mouth closed, moving as perfect and as fluid as you can, just letting the mind relax and just being in that moment. And these walks that you'll be taking every single day will be one of the most mentally refreshing things that you could do. Like, that's when your best ideas are going to come. That's when you get home and you can start your day with a whole new fresh attitude, feeling really good, knowing exactly what's important to you. They're called think walks or meditation walks. If you just need, all this stuff's going on in your head, go for a walk. That's going to help that movement and that flow just moving throughout your body. You're going to feel a lot better mentally, and you're going to feel better physically as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, Will. I think a lot of us get stuck in trying to develop the mindset to take the action, but I think it actually works in reverse. When you're on a fat loss or transformation journey, the best thing you can do is be in movement, in motion, and that works in developing the mindset. So then what happens after repetition and consistency? Well, you commit first, then you have repetition and consistency that creates your outcome. So your focus is really narrowed, right? Will, you need to focus on the next choice you have in front of you. Eat this, not that. Wake up and move, or not. Those are really the only two choices. We can really simplify this process for everybody.
Yeah. Like, losing weight is super, super simple. Like, I'm not saying it's easy by any means. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's very simple. You got to move, you got to move, you got to move, and you got to consume less, but there are methods to make this more effective for you. Right. And like I said, or one thing that I've noticed about people who want to lose weight or maybe need to lose weight is they tend to find every excuse throughout their days not to move, right? Because moving is challenging, especially if you are holding an extra 25 pounds. Every movement you do is 25 pounds harder, so like, I get that and I understand, but just to work through that resistance is exactly what you need to be your best, to become your best, not just for you, but for the people you care about, or for any mission that you're here to accomplish. So create little tiny little things that makes you move a little bit more. So instead of being somewhere and being the first one to sit down, stand up. Like, don't be afraid to get up and get things or to walk things. A perfect example is when you go to the grocery store. Don't chase for the closest parking spot. Park far. Park far and just walk and enjoy that ability to be able to move and use your body, because not everyone gets to do that. So park far away and take the stairs instead of the elevator. I read about a study years ago when I was, really working with a lot of clients on losing weight. And the study took 3 people, right? One group of people, they put them on a training program, they put them on a diet program, right? And they gave them all the tools they needed to lose weight. Okay. And the next group of people, they didn't do anything. So that was, or what's it called in the research when they don't change anything, right? It's called
the control group.
A control group, thank you. And then the third group, they didn't give them a trainer, they didn't give them a diet, but they showed them little secrets of just how to change their lifestyle, right? For example, and two of the main things was every time you park, park far away. Every time you take an elevator, don't take the stairs. Like, and gave them some tips like that. And then in 6 months, of course, the people who didn't change anything probably gained a few pounds because that's how it works as we get older. And then in 6 months, the people who had the trainer and had the diet, they lost the most weight, right? But they checked back into this group 2 years later. I believe it was 2 years, maybe 3. And after 2 years, the people who had the trainer and had the gym membership and had the full program, they end up going back around their weight. They did a little bit better than the controlled group, but after 2 or 3 years, the most interesting thing was the people who kept losing weight were the people who changed just the way they do small little things in their life, finding reasons to move. And when you move, your brain feels good, your body feels good. These bodies that we have are meant to move. We're meant to walk. We're meant to run. We're meant to use these bodies. They're very capable of movement. We just realize that the more excess weight we have, the movement tends to be a little bit harder.
Yeah, David's got a great question. Well, a comment and a question. He stacks some of his habits. So he's actually walks the dog for 15 or 30 minutes. But you know what? On rainy days, the dog's not going outside, Will. So that's out. Do you have any recommendations on when the external environment is not conducive to movement? What maybe can you do to adapt to that inside? He says he tried yoga and it almost killed him. So that's out. So we got to try something else.
Two things on that. One is I'm going to recommend walking outside in the rain. Like I promise you, like if it's raining outside and you haven't been sitting out in rain since you were a kid, go and, because that's normal. Kids will go out and play in the rain, but us as adults, it's like we're afraid to get wet. We're not going to melt. I swear the best walks are rain walks. Like let yourself get drenched, leave your phone in the house. If it's super, super hot, if it's super, super cold, or if it's raining, get outside, let your body adapt to those elements. And I promise you, after a 30-minute rain walk, you come home, you're going to feel probably better than you felt since you were a kid. It's going to be awkward at first. It's going to be that level of resistance of, oh my God, I'm going to get wet, because you're just not used to it. But just to get outside in that rain or in that super hot sun or in that really cold, it's going to give you that much more health benefits, especially if it's really hot or cold. Because, the more that we could push our temperatures, broaden those temperatures of the hot and cold, the healthier we're going to be and the better our bodies will be able to fight off any sort of a disease, virus, or sickness. So get outside into the elements. And my second recommendation, which I know he's probably not going to want to hear this, is it didn't kill you, so you got stronger. And most likely, like you tell me all the time, the obstacle is the way. If yoga was that hard, yoga is probably the number one thing that you should be doing. Because it's that hard, it's highlighting some imbalance that is extremely difficult for you, which is probably moving your body in awkward different positions, which means most likely, which is 99% of us, we spend most of our days doing the same positions. The same movements pretty much every single day. It's not very often where we raise our hands all the way above our head. It's not very often that we turn our spine all the way. It's not very often that we get on the ground. Okay. So if yoga is that difficult, like that was going to be the first recommend thing, that if you don't want to go outside, go on YouTube, Yoga with Adriene. She's my favorite. She kills it. She has yoga for weight loss, yoga for stress, yoga for hurt knees, yoga for bad back, yoga for love, yoga for whatever you're looking for. Adriene's got it. Okay. Yoga with Adriene on YouTube, and they have yoga for beginners. Maybe the one you did was a little bit more challenging. Try a yoga for beginners. And my manager and one of my dearest friends, Gary, right? He's probably going to hate me for saying this, but he's in his 60s and he's in phenomenal health. And when he was turning 60, or maybe a little bit earlier, we worked in the gym so much. And then I started learning more about health of, we got to get outside and we got to be doing all these different movements. And it took me about over a year, probably 2 years, to get him to do yoga because he hated it so much. And it was so difficult for him to move into these different positions because his body wasn't used to it. But it took so long, and he would do it maybe once every 3 months. But then when he built a habit out of it and started doing it, he realized how much better his body feels, how much easier it is to get in and out of the car. And then how much more energy you have at the end of the day because everything you did is a little bit easier. So, I highly recommend yoga with Adrian. If you don't want to go outside, which I highly recommend going outside, everything's going to be better outside. But you could still do yoga with Adrian. And there's 1,000,001 YouTube weight loss workouts. Find, if Adrian's not for you, find the guy or girl that speaks to you the most. And there's 1,000,000 of them. So there's so many guided workouts that you can do on YouTube. Just play it up and follow along and just do your best to get through it. You don't have to look exactly like the perfect fitness model that's doing it. Just try to do your best. And when you show up every day and give your best, you're going to be showing up every day and getting your best.
Yeah, our friend Ray has even posted up the yoga with Adrian, as well as another link to some at-home workout videos. So that's awesome.
Okay, thank you so much. And so now we went over movement. Okay, so we're going to be moving every day for 30 to 60 minutes. If you got more, do more. When you're finding the movement, you got to find something that you really enjoy and that you can commit to being consistent with. Okay, so if you love walking or riding a bike or swimming, going for a hike, joining a league, yoga with Adrian, find something that you really enjoy. Just like diet, I recommend diversity. So switching it up, maybe having your base, because everybody can wake up in the morning and go for a walk every day. It's not every day that you're going to be able to go for a big hike. So maybe on the weekend, go for a big hike or a big swim or a big game or something, a big movement that may take you 3 or 4 hours. And then during the week, just have that routine of that 30 to 60 minute movement just to make sure you're getting your base. Because remember, 30 to 60 minutes is a bare minimum base that everybody needs to be moving. It doesn't matter if you're the healthiest person in the world. I promise you, they're moving at least 30 minutes every single day. It doesn't matter what you got going on. You got to get that blood flow moving through your body to at least transport the nutrients to everywhere that you need to. So find movement that you enjoy and that you can be consistent with. But other than that, it comes down to, and you guessed it, nutrition, which tends to be the hardest part of it all. Because, at the end of the day, we're going to feel good when we move, but nutrition can be pretty challenging. Okay, because a lot of us, maybe picky eaters, have been eating bad foods our whole life and our body's not really used to vegetables. But let's keep it simple again, because simpler is always better. When it comes to diet, we want to go for whole foods and plant-based. Okay, and when I mean plant-based, I don't mean vegan, I don't mean vegetarian. I mean most of everything you eat should be based on plants. Food that grows from the earth. Because if it doesn't grow from the earth, where does it come from, Edwin?
In the lab.
Yeah, there's a lab. It's processed. It's added with a bunch of chemicals and stuff that you don't want inside your body. And like I said, you can lose weight off eating just cookies. Like if you have 500 calories, 1,000 calories a day of just, what is that, 4 or 5 cookies? Like your body will lose weight, but you'll feel really bad. And then what's the point? So you want to be able to nourish yourself as much as you possibly can. And nourishment comes from whole foods. What's a whole food?
If it doesn't have a mama or it didn't come from the ground, I would probably question whether it was a whole food.
Yeah. A whole food is something that the whole thing is one ingredient. Broccoli, spinach, carrots, sweet potatoes, fish, chicken, meat, and meat is kind of the touchy subject because, I've talked to many times or before on this channel about meat. You don't need a lot of it. We're probably, most of us are over consuming meat. But the meat that you do choose, try not to get the concentration camp meat. And what I mean by the concentration camp meat is, how was that food grown? Okay, like it's not the what when it comes to meat, but it's the how. So you can get chickens or cows or, you know, beef that is grown in a concentration camp style that's, they don't ever see outside. They're not getting any movement in. So they're pumped with a bunch of antibiotics and hormones and a bunch of chemicals, which is the stuff that you're going to get at your local Moe's or your Subway or all of your fast food, McDonald's, all your fast food chains, pretty much all your restaurants that aren't 5-star or, you know, specifically advertised, we don't put hormones, they're going to be having this cheap, low grade meat. So if you go there, I'd recommend getting the vegan stuff. But even their vegetables are going to be sprayed with a bunch of antibiotic chemicals as well. So it's tough. Like, it's not easy to find really healthy foods. So it's gonna take a commitment, you know, and this is the hardest part about losing weight, is committing to lose weight. And there's two ways to do this. You know, have you ever heard that saying, you know, you can either have it like cheap and fast, or fast and good, or please correct me because it's all off. You know, it could either be cheap and fast or cheap and good or good and fast, but it can't be all of them, right?
It's got to
So
be 2 out of the 3, or I think there's a good video on that, right?
yeah. I just watched an awesome video yesterday that I sent to Edwin. If you just type in on YouTube how to lose weight, Athlean X is an awesome YouTube channel. The guy is super smart. He has got tons of videos as well. Check him out. But so you either are going to get, or you don't want cheap and fast, because what's cheap and fast? That's fast food. It's not going to be good. You know, it's not going to be good. It's going to be processed. That's what's putting us into this problem that we're already in. So what's cheap and good? You know, to go out and buy your own ingredients is not that expensive. Okay. It is a little bit more expensive to get organic, but I promise you, if you can afford it, it's a must, because that's the stuff without the chemicals. That's the stuff that's going to be still having its microbiome to feed your microbiome, to help your body communicate with itself. So organic is always recommended. The cheapest way is honestly grow your own food. You know, build the soil in your backyard and plant your own seeds. That's going to be the cheapest way. And then, you got to make it, you know, and that can be harder to commit to, you know. So that's if you make food every day, or maybe meal prep on a Sunday, so you're making food for the whole week, but you have to commit to that. And it's not easy to make food all the time, because when you don't have it, then that's when you kind of slip up. The other option is good and fast. How do you get good and fast? You throw away the cheapness. Yeah, it's not cheap. So good and fast is stuff like catering, you know, or, you know, there's a bunch of those meal companies who literally send you boxes of all of your meals. You know, there's, no, I wish I could have one for you, but I think it's pretty based on the area that you're at. So just Google a meal prep company, and you can base it all based on your goals, trying to lose weight, low carb, high protein, and they'll send it right to you. It's not necessarily the cheapest option, but it's good and it's fast, which you have to find what you're going to commit to. And it's okay to do both, you know, maybe do the meal prep service when you can afford it, maybe 1 week out of the month, and then cook for the rest. Or you have to find what works for you. I think a really important factor of this is having a growth mindset with it instead of a fixed mindset. If you fail, just don't think that you're a failure and this losing weight thing's not for you, but think of it as an opportunity to learn how you can do a little bit better next week, because there's going to be weeks, there's going to be times where you slip up. We all slip up. Everybody has a Thanksgiving, you know, everybody has a Christmas almost, where they're around family and there's cakes. Like, nobody's perfect. It's okay. But the goal is to create a system, a method around your life that makes it possible.
Yeah, I
So
love that. I'm trying to get the YouTube link for the listeners. So I'm sending it back to you, Will. I'm working behind the scenes.
can you repeat the name of the guy for how to lose the weight on YouTube? Yeah, it's Athlean X, ATHLEAN.
AN-X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a bunch of awesome, really awesome videos on all things fitness, and he's super science based too. Like, this guy is one of the smartest people when it comes to all that good stuff. But like I said before, there is two ways to lose fat, and there's two ways to lose weight. It's very challenging to be healthy if we're overweight. It's not impossible, but it's very, very challenging to be healthy if we're overweight. But we can lose weight and still not be healthy. How is that? That's based on the food that we're eating, and that's based on the nourishment that we're taking in. Like I said, we can lose weight unhealthily just by eating 1,000 calories of cookies, but you're just going to be having a bunch of processed sugar and you're not going to have much nourishment. So we're going to feel really bad. We're going to be like most Americans, we're going to be overfed and malnourished, and that's for two reasons. One is because our food is so low on quality right now that it's just high on calories, but low on quality. And it's not easy to find this high quality food. But then there's the healthy way to lose weight. Okay. And the healthy way is with whole foods, plant-based, have some meat sometimes, but and have some good avocados and some, plants. But I'm not saying that you can never have a cookie. I'm not saying that you can never have anything bad, but you just want to have the good stuff at least 80% of the time. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you the vitamins and minerals needed for your health. There's macronutrients and there's micronutrients. Macronutrients is the stuff like the protein, is stuff like the fats, is stuff like the carbohydrates. Proteins come from fish, chicken, meats, nuts. And then you have and that's good for muscle function, for brain function, to rebuild your bones. You do want a good amount of protein, maybe 0.6 to 0.8% or per body weight. So if you're like 150 pounds, maybe I try to get around 120 grams of protein a day. If you're training really hard, or if you're an athlete, probably more 1-to-1. And then you have your carbohydrates, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of unless you're outputting a ridiculous amount of calories, because if you're trying to lose weight, carbohydrates are really not going to be your friend, because pretty much all carbohydrates is energy, right? And if you're trying to lose weight, excess fat is stored energy. You want to be using that stuff. You don't really want to be taking in any more. But there are some good, healthy carbohydrates like fruits, and there's some carbs and some vegetables. Some sweet potatoes are really good. And then you have your fats, which fats get a bad rep. And I think that's a lot of the industrial agriculture more than actual science. But fat is something that we actually need. I'm not saying that we need the unhealthy, butter fat from a sick cow, but healthy fats like avocados, a little bit of olive oil, some coconut oil, nuts and seeds, like those have healthy fats that really help our brain and that help our body absorb those nutrients. And yeah, so that's the good thing about losing fat the healthy way, is you're focusing more on vitamins and minerals. And I gave you the first tip, right? That's waking up every morning, and before you consume anything besides water, you're moving for 30 to 60 minutes. Now, the second tip is find a little fast in the morning, and I'm not telling you to take a 3-day fast where you're starving and miserable, but everybody who's watching this, note what time that they usually have their first calorie of the day. Is it as soon as you wake up? Is it 8 o'clock? Is it 9 o'clock? Is it 10 o'clock? And most likely, if you eat every day at 10 o'clock, around 9:30, what's going to start happening? Your tummy starts growling. Right?
Hangry.
Yeah, then you're like, oh no, I need to eat. And every signal in your body is telling you need to eat. Not because you're physiologically low on calories, but just because your body gets used to that rhythm. Okay. So if you normally eat at 10 o'clock, I'm not telling you to be miserable all day and fast till 3. Okay. I'm saying push it from 10 to 10:30. Okay. And then you do that for 3 days. And then guess what's going to happen? Around 10 o'clock, your body will start growling. Okay. And then when you hit that, then you push it to 11 and you keep pushing that. Okay. And a quick little tip is the smaller the window of your eating window throughout the day, the healthier you're going to be. And the more capable your body is going to be able to burn fat as energy. Okay. So what that means is, the time of your first calorie versus the time of your last calorie. If you have your first calorie at 10 and last calorie at 10 p.m., that's 12 hours. Shrink that down to 8, shrink that down to 6, shrink that down to 4 or 5. The more that you can shrink that down, the healthier you're going to be, and the more you're going to train your body to burn fat. Okay. So, and I'm not saying to start off with just being miserable unless you really feel like you have that in you, but just push it back 30 minutes every 3 days or every few days till at least you're making about 16 hours. That's the goal. The bare minimum goal is to go about 16 hours every single day without eating, giving your digestive system a break. And if you can't make 12 hours, if you can't make 14 hours, without everything in your body and mind, that's a full-blown food addiction. Okay. Like not to be harsh, but that's a full-blown food addiction. And I care about you in the same way that if you cared about one of your family members addicted to any drug, you would want to do something. Okay. And it's that important because remember, more people are dying from this than any other drug. More people are dying from sugar than anything. Okay. So, and that's what our bodies are addicted to. So let's make sure bare minimum that we're getting 12 hours and then pushing that to 16 hours. And after you get 16 hours comfortably, push it to 18 hours. And that whole time that you wake up and say you take 4 or 5 hours before your first meal, your body's going to be burning fat as energy. That is the key to losing fat. And especially if you wake up and you move that, you start your walking, you start your yoga and you're getting outside, your body's going to use fat to do all that good stuff. And when your body's burning fat as energy, a little trick that I've noticed myself is my brain works so much better. I swear that's when I get my best ideas. I feel mentally on it when I'm burning fat as energy as opposed to carbohydrates. And I've noticed that in myself because lately I've been having to increase my carbohydrates so much because I'm training. Like I'm literally physically training 6 hours a day. So if I'm not having some sort of excess energy, I'll dwindle down to nothing. And this is extreme. What I'm doing is extreme and not necessarily normal. So I'm having to take in more carbohydrates and I notice I'm less creative. I notice that my brain doesn't work as well as when I'm eating 1 or 2 meals a day just plant-based, but that's just something I've noticed.
And have fun with it, right? I mean, experiment, take some risk and find your flow.
Yeah. Find what works for you, and that is one of the best things that you could do with your diet is trying different foods, trying different plants. Every single time that you go to a grocery store, try to pick up a plant that you've never eaten before. That's going to not only be awesome for your brain and awesome for your gut, but it's going to keep things interesting, which can be, extremely beneficial. That's how you can have the most balanced diet is having the most diverse diet, trying to eat as many different things as possible. If you're eating broccoli 365 days a year, your body actually gets used to it, just in the same way as if you're doing the same workout. It's called food sensitivity if you want to look it up a little bit more. But yeah, so switch it up. Don't just have broccoli every day. Have some Brussels sprouts, have some greens, go into the grocery store and find something that you've never heard of before. The best thing that you could do besides growing your own food is finding your local organic farmer, joining a CSA. And if you first start from those foods, it's going to be really powerful to, because when you focus on the good stuff, it's not so much of a battle with the bad stuff because you don't have as much room. So just focus on, and that's what I like to do with my diet, because I promise you, if I want a cookie, most likely, like, I'll probably go get a cookie, but what I do is I focus on doing as best as I can, as much as I possibly can. So when I have a cookie, I don't feel bad. Like, I know I could probably do better, and instead of having 5 cookies, I should probably only have one, or two. But that's how I learn. It's a lifelong pursuit of self-mastery, to figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
But I bet they're not 2 days where you're eating 5 cookies.
No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the 2-day rule, so it's like, just how I told myself I wouldn't miss that Wim Hof breathing more than one day. I have to get into that good routine. Bad food is the same way, and that's why, like, a lot of people I know and care about, they'll do really good Monday through Friday, but then they'll mess up all day Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. And then they wonder why Monday is so difficult, because their body's addicted to all the bad stuff and they're not really feeling the good as good. But if you have one bad day, it's okay. Just, that's extra motivation to get really on it the next day. So we're running out of time, but I want to leave you guys with a few tools of what can really help. One is get a calorie calculator. And this can be like, there's 101 different apps. One is called LifeSum that Athlean X was recommending. But if you just give it a good Google search of a calorie calculator, can be extremely powerful to just know what you're eating. It does. If you're logging it in with pen and a piece of paper, old school, or if you're logging it into your phone, it's both extremely beneficial to just being really aware of every calorie that you're eating. If losing fat is really important to you, I highly recommend tracking what you're consuming. What gets measured gets improved. So find a calorie calculator or find some sort of app, or if you don't want to mess with any technology, just write down everything that you eat every single day. And what this does is a couple things. One, if it's not working, you'll be able to look back and see what's going wrong. But two, it's just that self accountability, to where if we as humans are just much less likely to eat a cookie if we have to write it down and face ourselves to it. Like, it's easier to just walk by and eat a cookie and then just forget about it, and an hour later, and then you jump on the scale and you're like, why am I not losing weight? I don't know. What did I do? But if you're writing it down, especially using that technology of today with all of these apps, it can tell you exactly, you can log in your weight, you can log in your goal, your heights, what your food preferences are, and it could even give you recipes, or it could tell you how many calories that you've had and how many calories you have left. So if losing fat is important to you, get some help with some technology. And yeah, the other thing is, if you want to really master this nutrition aspect, we have that Nutrition 101 master class that really goes into detail about what's good, what's bad, how to shop at the grocery store, how to source and get the highest quality food for you and your family, as well as with some really awesome, delicious and nutritious recipes. I put in there some of my favorite plant-based recipes that I like to cook as well. And when I say plant-based, I don't mean that there's no meat. I just say that it's 90% plants, okay? Which is what we want to shoot for, because our bodies are evolved over millions of years to eat from the earth, not from a lab.
Awesome, Will. I want to ask a favor. It can be a belated birthday for next week's program, but for those of you who consistently show up and add value to both me and Will through your questions, I'd love for you to bring a friend and let's grow this network of influence, because I know there are people that you guys care about, and we'd love them to be part of this network where weekly we are stepping forward together and advancing ourselves and living a happier, healthier, stronger life. So if you would bring a friend next week, we'd love to meet them, right, Will?
Yeah, absolutely. We all have friends who are dealing with a lot of the same things that we are, and one of the most effective ways to succeed yourself is to bring the people who are around with you. So you guys can kind of join. It's like a partnership of accountability. It makes it so much easier to succeed in goals if your friends have similar goals. And next week is going to be all about fasting. Okay. So if you're here on this week, wanting to learn how to lose fat, literally the best, most effective, healthiest thing that we could do is fasting. But we could do it the wrong way, and we could do it in an unhealthy way. And that's the stuff that me and Dr. Edwin are going to be talking about tomorrow. So thank you so much for saying that, Edwin. Invite a friend tomorrow. You know, if you're married, if you have, a husband, a wife, that's probably the first person that I would invite, because most likely you guys are going to be eating a lot of the same things. And most likely your routines are going to be very similar. Invite your best friend, invite somebody that you truly care about. Because remember, the better you can be, the better you'll be for them. And the better they can be, the better they'll be there for you. And that's really what this channel is about, is evolving ourselves to evolve each other. And I just want to say I'm super grateful to be able to have this platform, and I'm super grateful for Edwin being here with me, and every one of you guys to join in and to be able to connect with people all over the world and share the things that have been helping me with other people, and so I can help bring up, I'm learning as well, and we're all learning together. I'm just super grateful for this platform, and I'm looking forward to next week. And yeah, and if you want to sign in and join in on these conversations, again, chatwithwillgrant.com. Next week is all about fasting, and that nutrition 101 masterclass is on thewillgrant.com. And we got some other cool things like a breath class, a happy, healthy, strong, and 6-week program. So go check it out and let us know what you think. And I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, our friend Ray said he has lost 20 pounds with the knowledge that we share here, and that your Nutrition 101 course is a tremendous resource. So way to go, Ray. Way to stay committed to the
Yeah,
process.
that's really awesome. Thank you so much, Ray, for being in on that Nutrition 101 class. That's super awesome. He's been with us for a minute now, and he's been doing really cool. So I'm stoked for Ray, and I'm stoked for every one of you guys who are just looking to better yourself and evolve yourself. So remember, every single day for 30 days before you consume anything besides water, get that body moving. All right.
Awesome. And you know what, Will? The end of March brings the end of this 3-month series that we've been going on. So I can't wait to hop on the phone with you soon to plan out the next 3 months of interventions that will help this community grow happier, healthier, and stronger.
That crossed my mind the other day, like, oh, wow, we only have a couple weeks left of this series that we're doing. What's next? And I have some ideas. I'm just not ready to share them yet.
All right. Well, it's time to mastermind, Will. I'm ready.
All right, man. See you guys. Thank you.